And one of the attendees at the conference today was Carlos Gil, Chief Executive Officer of Microequities Asset Management, which started life in 2005 as a dedicated investment research house in Australia focused only on microcaps. And he joins me now. Carlos, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, T.
Look, this is an area I suspect our viewers will be very, very interested in. You call microcaps under 250 million market capitalisation. What is it that is attractive from an investor's point of view? Is it really the sort of high growth, high risk aspect?
For us, it isn't. We're very conservative in terms of the companies that we decide to invest in. I think there's two real elements that attract us to the asset class. One is that we think the growth outlook for the majority of the microcap companies tends to be far superior to the mid-cap or the large-cap counterparts. The other big element of why we invest in the asset class is that we believe there is much more market inefficiency in this part of the stock market.
For which read mispricing?
Well, there's not a lot of institutional investor support for microcaps, and there's not a lot of brokerage research coverage on a lot of the microcap companies, and they tend to be...
Because it's not worth their while?
The economies of scale for a research department in most brokerage and investment banks houses, the reality is that it's a cost centre. So they have to... That analysts might cover 6 to 15 companies. They're typically on a high salary. The research department of an investment bank or a broker is a cost centre. So somehow, some way, the broker or the investment bank must deliver a revenue side to their business that supports and funds that research cost centre.
So you say you're a conservative fellow. You've got your research behind you. For the average retail investor, do they need to be a sophisticated investor to look at these sorts of stocks?
We don't think they need to be sophisticated, but they definitely have to be aware of that investing in a microcap company requires and necessitates a systematic approach of fundamental analysis before they go out. There's a wide disparity in terms of the investment quality of a lot of the microcap companies. We're very passionate and firm backers of the asset class and of a lot of the microcap Australian companies, but the reality is we look at a lot of companies that don't have a genuine investment case.
So for every big air, there's another, presumably a hot air company that might have crashed, and presumably there are some ASX 200 companies that grow to become microcap companies.
That's right. Just to give you an idea, we have a high conviction, our Deep Value Microcap Fund is a high conviction fund. We have only 15 businesses that we own. There are roughly in around 1,500 microcap companies. So for every company that we've decided to invest, we notionally reject 99 companies.
So just going to your Deep Value Microcap Fund, that was launched fortuitously or very cleverly on March the 6th, 2009. So since then you've had a return of over 100% compared to the All Ords of 68%. But this last month, and indeed the last couple of months, you were well below the All Ords in your return. Did a lot of that have to do with you've only got those few stocks? I think one position you had in particular accounted for that difference.
We have our top value, our highest weighted position is roughly 16% of our total funds under management. We do not. How we derive value is based on an intrinsic valuation. We do not believe that the market is an accurate valuer over the short to medium term. We, in fact, firmly believe that all our 15 companies are considerably undervalued, including big air. So
you pick winners?
We pick winners. Over the short term, we absolutely recognise that we might have underperformance over the short term. What we are absolutely convinced on is that over the medium to long term, and every time we buy into a business, we are always strategically looking at a business from a 3 to 5 year perspective, is that we should be able to deliver considerable outperformance over the All Ords accumulated index.
So what sort of business models do you look at, and do you speak a lot to management? Presumably management of small caps have a bit more time to talk to you.
They do, and in any business we believe that management is a key and integral part of investment outcomes. We look at the fundamentals of the business. First and foremost, we don't invest in unprofitable businesses. We need to have a tested business. So at least 2 years of worth of EBITDA profitability is a minimum filter criteria. We look at where we think the business will be from a strategic perspective from 3 to 5 years. Are the underlying growth metrics of the industry favourable? And lastly, but not leastly, the quality of management. And we decide whether we take two key criterions in terms of the management. We look at them from a professional competence. Are they good business leaders? Are they the right people to drive the company forward? And are they ethical and moral compass aligned to the underlying shareholders' best interests?
And what about sectors? Because you say you've got to have 2 years of EBITDA, right? So all these small cap, micro cap mining companies. I notice you're under 6% of your whole investment is mining, and 37% software.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would that be what you'd suggest more broadly to retail investors to look at? Or, I mean, after all, this boom is going to be presumably quite a long one on the mining side.
It is, and we would agree with that. We feel uncomfortable taking commodity risk. Where we feel more comfortable is taking investments in companies that service the miners. Essentially, a commodity, you have no control, you've got no pricing power. You're essentially driven by the supply and demand equation of that underlying commodity. Service providers have different price pressures and price controls over their services, so we feel much more notionally comfortable taking stakes in service providers to the miners.
Well, very quickly, as a microcap company, how do I attract you as a fund manager?
Having a very good business that's profitable, that's got a great growth outlook, and having a competent, honest management team behind it.
Carlos Gil, I thank you very much for joining us on Late Line Business.
Thanks very much for having me.